Hello, this is DM Grisix again for that second session of going over the base command of the Avrae Dungeon Master Tools for 2024. The one I use for 5th stage, but right now we are going to go over the functionality that works for any game. They are not like specific to any particular campaign. Can be used by any DM that want to keep track of time, travel, climate through Discord. Discord is a great tool because you don't have to be logged in on a game table to find the information. You can move the time forward between sessions. There's a bunch of things that can happen between two sessions with everybody on Discord without having to have a game table or be around the table with your friends. So let's continue on what we have seen last time. We left our group. They decided to investigate some of the Underdark stuff, so we're going to go when they return from the Underdark and they get back to the surface of the world. So they are coming back in that forest that we had seen earlier. So the terrain command is where you can switch your terrain type and get the information from the DMG about the various DC. Because they returned a little bit later, let's do a random climate generation here. Let's see what the weather is like as they're going out. It is strong wind, clear sky, pretty cold snap over there. Which is possible as winter has come, and we are after all in February. Remember, we are kind of handling the time through a core like the real world calendar. So it is early February and on 1600 BC. They return to the surface. It's around 6 p.m. So probably night is starting to kind of go down, but it's a clear day. It's a waxing gibbous moon, so there's probably some moonlight around. They are probably going to decide to stay put for the next 5 hours before the next long rest can start. So we use the travel command even when you stay put. The way you do that, you handle the number of hours before the long rest in that case. You put a 0 because you want to show that they are not moving. And here, even if they stay put at the exit, we are going to kind of get an encounter roll here. So let's put it at a DC 20. So only something's going to happen if we roll 20 on a DC on a die, on a 20-sided dice. So they stay for 5 hours, no problem, no encounters. If we had wanted to do like an encounter per hour, I would have moved the time forward 1 hour at a time instead of 5 times, but I just wanted one check, so that's fine. They're going to set up for the night, take their long rest. But for the night, I want a particular kind of type of check here. I don't want to use a D20 anymore. I want to do a D12 because there's tribes around. They may be kind of roaming, and at night they are more likely to find a campfire. So I'm going to roll a D12 and put it with a DC 12 here. So obviously the night and the long rest is 8 hours, so we do 0 because they are staying put, 1d12 because that's the encounter we are going to roll, and DC 12 on 12 result will be an encounter. So let's roll that. Okay, everything went fine. It was nighttime, somebody was keeping watch clearly. No encounter, night was quiet, so we are going to now kind of prompt them to do the long rest with the time tracking LR, which is a long rest. So the next day arrive. It is the 5th day of February, as you can see now. We're going to generate a new random a new kind of random climate, see what the weather is like in the next morning. Okay, slight cover. The temperature has gone back up a little bit. It's not as cold, but still a clear sky here. and the group is going to decide to travel for 8 hours, and kind of get away. They found that they found maybe somewhere to investigate something weird happening in the nearby mountain. So let's say they are going to move for 3 hours at 30 miles at 30 feet, which is the speed of the lowest group member, the slowest group member. And we're just going to make an encounter check because it could still get across like some encounter as they head for the hills. So let's do that here. DC 20, no encounter. They have done the 9 miles to reach actually the hills. So we're going to indicate that the terrain is changing at that point. We are starting to be in the hills here, and as they are continuing their parkour, we know that the terrain has changed. So let's say they have like another 5 miles to do in the hills before they get to the mountains themselves. So the way we do that with the travel, we just put 5, which is the number of miles in that case, 30 still because that's the speed of the slowest group member. And then we are going to put a mile because by default it's going to consider 5 as the number of hours, but we can change that to indicate it's actually only 5 miles that we want to do here. So it will calculate the time that pace passes at that speed for 5 miles. They're going to stay kind of cautious, so they're going to go at a slow pace here, but because we're getting into the hills, we're going to give them an encounter chance on a d20 of a little bit higher, let's say DC 17. So that's how I'm kind of running the command very easily. 5 for the number of miles, 30 for the slowest speed, mile to indicate we're talking miles, slow for the pace, encounter because I want an encounter check, DC 17 to indicate that. So when I'm rolling that number here, we'll see that they have traveled for 2 hours and 31 minutes, no encounters, so they get to the mountain. At the bottom you can see a few information that is representing the total travel distance they have done since they left the Underdark. So it's going just to keep cumulative tracks of all the distance that they have done, which is a very good tool for the DM to remember where they are on the map. If they you could use a map on the game table, of course, and show the progress like a regular exploration, but that's also something that is tracked in Discord and can be visible by everybody. So let's say they get to the mountain. At that point it's going to be obviously a very kind of a different type of terrain. The DC from the 2024 DMG are kind of shown for that. Let's say they had been informed that there is a way to get into another world called Barovia over there. So we are going to give them a few hours where they are going kind of to search for that. It is actually in the day, it is around midday. Their next long rest is going to start in 11 hours. Let's say, for example, that's going to put them, like, take them 4 hours to find actually the place that they are looking for in these mountains. And we're going to move the time forward by 4 hours. And they find the way to access another plane. In that case, I'm going to use the plane of Barovia, because it is a pretty well-known plane here. So I'm going to go back to the information on the global variable here, and we are going to show how the world command can be used to transition from one world to the next. First, for each world, you need to set a global variable, and you have the global variable ID, which I'm picking up here, which I set for Barovia. So I'm going to switch things here with the world command. I'm putting the variable, obviously, then the number of days from in Barovia that have happened, let's put 12 here. I'm going to indicate which kind of year in Barovia. I'm going to put a random number of years here, 945 BR for Barovia. And then I want them to arrive, let's say, when it's kind of 3 hours in the morning for Barovia. We'll talk about morning in a moment, but 3 hours in that day, and under a moon that is actually dark. So that would be the command here, but before I run that, I'm going to go over the variable here and show you guys a bit of information about how this world setting works. So you create a global variable, you get your ID for the world, and then you put a bunch of information under this format over there. So the length is the length of day for a year. So that means that the year will move forward 1 year every 39 days. So obviously the time in Barovia passes differently than the time in the world where the adventurer comes from. So then obviously name of the calendar itself. Hours per day is a very important information. By default it will be 24 hours, but in Barovia it is 16 hours per day. So when you count that you have to take a long rest, 8 hours long rest, that means that it leaves you 8 other hours to do your stuff, unlike the real world where you have like 16 hours of activity and then 8 hours of long rest. So this is one of the things D&D is kind of pretty fuzzy about, how the time passes differently between planes, and how things are kind of moving in terms of long rest when that happens. For the purpose of these tools, the 8 hour of long rest is not compressible. You have to take 8 hours regardless of where you are. So after the hours per day, there is another pretty interesting thing here. I have chosen in my games to set up the hour cycle to 12 hours, not 2 or 3 days per moon cycle, but 12 hours before the moon changes. So this is what that is showing up here. Every 12 hours the moon is going to change. The moon ref is kind of where the moon starts by default. We're not going to kind of dwell into that too much right now. So moon phase indicates how many phases of the moon there are in that world, and the all night is another information to show that this is kind of a night plane. So even there's no kind of day per se, the only light coming from a full moon, and we see that under here with the moon information. There's 2 moon cycles, the full moon or the deep darkness. There's no in between. So these are like the codes that kind of track the icons that will represent those stages of moon. But otherwise you have the full kind of moon range, half moon, gibbous, waxing and stuff like that. But here for Barovia we only deal with full moon or no moon at all and deep darkness. So I'm not going to go over the moon cycle. That will be like when a moon cycle lasts for more than a few hours, but a few days. And then we're going to go through the season. So season is important because it tracks kind of the choice of season type. So the weather will be different in winter than in summer. So here in Barovia, all the seasons have actually an ID of 0, which is winter. 1 is spring, 2 summer, 3 fall. But I can name the seasons the way I want. So even if the ID is kind of tracking the type of season we're talking about, you can name the seasons based on your world information. So I chose Duskin and Downin for Barovia, and Duskin is actually from day 1 to day 12. Then we get this day 13 to day 27 out of 39 on Downin, and then Duskin again from 28 to 39. Again, just random choices of words here that fits my campaigns. Then you get to the months, so you can actually name the months individually and say how long they last. So as you can see, winter moon here, length 3, so that means technically this month in Barovia lasts only 3 days. So I don't know if the month is the right terminology for to describe the players, but it certainly is a good terminology to use for the variable here. So daylight indicates that there won't be any daylight over there. I'm not going to dwell too much on that right now. And then there is some times that can be set as holidays, particular days where stuff happens. So I'm going to have Walpurgis on the first day, actually, on the winter moon. So this kind of New Year's Eve of Barovia every 39 days. Then I'm going to go over, quickly all through the moon. So I have a bunch of moon. I don't have to have 12 months. I can have 7, or I think in that case I have like 13 or 14 months of 39 days here in Barovia. So you set that up as you want, and then you get to a section that you can create that is very interesting for our travel encounter stuff. This is actually a table of encounters that is set for that particular world. So if you're familiar with the Curse of Strahd module, you roll encounters with a d12 plus a d8. So obviously you will get from a 2 to 20 result. So you have a bunch of tables here, encounter day and encounter night, that are set up over there. That can be kind of determined based on certain factors. I'm not going to go too much into the details yet. There is another video that's going to kind of detail how these guys are used, but and you can absolutely have all these encounters have the same table or different tables. So here, because we roll a d20 and a d12 and a d8, the basic result will be 2. So that's why we start here with none being at 0. We'll never roll 0 with 2 dice, and we'll never roll 1 either. So 0, 1, 2, that's the result here for 1 and 1 on the result. So by day you will be making commoners, by night you will be making undead. So that's kind of the gist of the basic encounter and the automation that goes with it in my kind of travel command for the Avrae tool. So this is kind of the way the global variable is set for the world. And you can copy that global variable to your own control, under your own control. You will get obviously a different global variable ID, and then just update these values to whatever your world is set up for. And when your adventurers go plane hopping or world changing, you can kind of just use the world command to change that in Discord. So that's where we are coming back here, where I have my command ready to go, and they have found a way to get into Barovia, and they are going through. So as they are going through, that information is going to keep a little bit of details about where they are coming from. So first it will tell you what is the current day, the current year, the current hour in Barovia, but also you want to keep track of what was the time in the world that they left. It can be kind of a reminder for everybody. It's also kind of calculated the percentage of the day remaining before the next long rest. This is kind of an information that is important because, as you can see, the time flow may vary when plane shifting. And if you have like 53% of the day remaining in a 24-hour long day, it's different if you have like a 16-hour long day in the new area. So let's see what time it is in Barovia now that we'll get there. So with the settings that we've done, we are saying that it is 3 hours and 31 minutes, and effectively the next long rest can start in 3 hours, not anymore like more than 7 hours or something like that. This is also the first day of the rain moon. It is a deep darkness. So one of the things that in that case the system is going to tell you is how many hours left of the current moon, how much time is left for the current moon. So because in my games Barovia has a kind of moon transition of every 12 hours, we know it's 5 hours left. It can be useful. I mean, you have some powers, for example, that allows to be invisible in darkness. So some characters will have the luxury of being invisible while traveling under no moon. Whereas if the full moon is there, there's dim light and they won't be exposed. They will be exposed and not invisible during that time, unless they find a cave or something like that. So our group, they have traveled for a little bit. They find this kind of entrance, maybe into the sinister mists that are around Barovia. They decide they don't want to stay too close to the mist, and they are going to decide to travel for, let's say, 3 hours here, the remaining 3 hours before they have to long rest, as they feel like the weight of Barovia gloominess kind of weigh on them. They're going to go at the 30 feet base from the slowest traveler here, and let's say they are not sure what's going on around them, so they are going to go at a slow pace. But before they do that, we need to know what they see around them. So they see kind of a dark forest over there. So the environment is kind of brought back over there. This is a Barovian forest. So they are going to go through that for 3 hours at a slow pace, like I was saying. But at that point, I am going to require an encounter check because as I'm looking through the rules, actually, the Barovian kind of module says that you roll encounters every 30 minutes in Barovia. And so then we have to change a few things here. We can make the checks one by one, but because we are at the 30 minutes, we are going just to move the time 30 minutes at a time. And I'm going to indicate minutes here to show that's what we are doing. So the first number is 30 for the minutes. The second is always the speed of the group, the slowest in the group. 0 is not moving. Then I'm going to add this kind of codes here that just indicates the system what we are tracking. So we're tracking minutes here. We're tracking a slow pace, and we are generating an encounter chance on a d20 by default, which will have a DC of 19. Let's say they are like close to the mist, not very many monsters or creatures, kind of ventures that close out at the outer edge of Barovia. So that's going to give us our roll here. So they have traveled 1.1 miles in 30 minutes, kind of putting a bit of distance between themselves and the mists, and they have not encountered anything. So let's say at that point they decide to stay put for the next 3 hours, waiting for effectively the start of their long rest. They kind of find a good spot, a little bit of shelter or something like that, and they are going to stay put. But the DM, obviously, we are still going to make an encounter check, and at that time the DC may be like a DC of 18. So let's do that over there. So 3 is for the number of hours in this case. 0, they are not moving. I don't need to do the hour keyword because by default it's always counting hours. And encounter because it's still a d20 with a DC of 18. So they're going to stay put that way. Oh yes, I did something. I actually used the time command instead of the travel command to do that thing. So this is a mistake I'm doing from time to time. So 3, 0. So one of the things you will see that at the bottom here, the DM is kind of keeping track of the command that has been run to see if there has been a mistake, and they can kind of easily retype them based on the setting that was done here. So I'm going to do that command here. So 3 hours and staying put, encounter DC 18, and let's see what that gives us. Okay, so something happened. We rolled 18, so obviously something happened. Maybe one of them went to kind of a little bit further than when they can't, and they found actually a trail. So there's a few information here that can be useful for the DM. First, you will see the D20 result, which you see there too, but you will also see the result of the encounter world that the world is managing. In that case, that was a result of 6. And you will see in the table encounter that's a trail. So maybe somebody noticed a trail as they kind of wander off a little bit, like 200 or 300 feet from the campfire, and notice that there is a trail they haven't seen before. So what's going to happen is up to the DM at that point. But as you can see, these tools are pretty well integrated into the story, as the DM can make up whatever they want from tracking the passage of time and the climate and the temperature and stuff like that. So the nice thing, the last thing I will point out, you can always go back to kind of see what happened when, especially if you're taking notes as a DM. You can say from the trail to, let's say, the winery, for example, because they are not very far from it. So that's DM notes that either they put in their DM channel or public notes for everybody waiting for the next session. So this is what I wanted to cover for today. Next session will be the last one on these commands, and we'll kind of go into more details about the 5th age rules that are integrated with those tools, with a bunch of utilities that are related to these 5 commands together. Okay, so have a great sessions, enjoy your games, and see you next time. Bye bye.